Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Claus.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello, and thank you for watching. I remembered to do the signal. We haven't done the hand signal for a little while.
Yeah, there's a few tropes on this show that get forgotten over time.
We are probably, I reckon we would be the worst show in the history of podcasting. Maybe not over a short period of time, because normally the flaws that we have inbuilt into what we do are normally enough to destroy a show. Like all the bad habits we have, all the times we bring something up, absolutely don't follow through on it. Like, I mean, we've
Technical ineptness.
I mean, it's Father's Day as we record this, and we have been bad fathers to our podcast audience because we're constantly giving mixed messages, promising trips to Disneyland that we never follow through.
Turn up late with a packet of smokes. There you go, kid.
There you go.
Smoke them up. See you next year, and then forget.
I've got to go to the shops to get more smokes because I gave you smokes for Father's Day.
In fact, can I borrow those smokes?
Actually, can I have a smoke? Because I've got to have one on the way to get some more smokes. See you next year.
I think the greatest mea culpa in recent times was our last run of live shows was all building towards the most TOFOP moment ever, and then we just kind of lost interest.
Which is the most TOFOP moment ever. So it's meta. That's the thing about this show. We're meta.
Constantly evolving.
Well, you know, the other thing is the funny thing is I think we are getting closer and closer to what it is that we do. Like, I know this is TOFOP, but obviously yesterday, we've been doing a run of live TOFOP shows in Melbourne, and afterwards we come in and we get to record the show in person. So it's become this, I think this is like the best model that we've had for ages, which is we get to do the live show, we get to do these face-to-face shows because we do 4 in a day often. They get even more ridiculous than usual towards the end of a long recording day. I think it suits the vibe. I think we're in a sweet spot.
Yes.
Like often in an AFL player's end of their career, they're like, oh, you don't have to come back to training until January. Like the rest of the squad will be back, but we've got to manage you in a different way. And I think that we're doing that with the podcast, but also even yesterday, just doing it with the footy podcast. I was like, oh, this is it, right? Like, I feel like all the bells and whistles, we shouldn't be left in charge of bells and or whistles. We are bells and with any type of long arc, anything that involves concentration to follow it through, we lose interest. Yeah. And we're just not that sort of show.
No, we're not like a Vince Gilligan kind of TV show where something that you've planted in season 1 pays off in season 5. No, we're very impulsive. It's kind of like in Wayne's World, they had it right when they're in the basement. And then when they got money from Noah's Arcade and they got the big budget and the set and stuff, it just the magic went out of the show. It didn't feel right.
Yeah. We're a ground level podcast.
Yeah.
It's our curse and our blessing.
Well, something that was brought up in an earlier episode this year, in fact, and I would like to issue a mea culpa to.
Oh, this is good. I love a mea culpa.
And to the listeners out there, which is my giant backpack.
Yeah.
And
wow. Well, okay.
You can see that I have since adopted a smaller backpack.
Downsize.
And the difference is profound.
Talk me through it.
Well,
firstly, just talk me through, because you haven't gone as small as my backpack, I've noticed.
No.
It's still I
still need to be able to carry multiple devices and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I'm traveling a long way from
mine's
home.
My backpack is handy for me and no one else in my life. Yeah. Because when they're like, hey, can you reply to that email? I'm like, yeah, I will when I get home later.
What are you carrying in your backpack?
I don't know, a book. My glasses.
Nerd.
Like a hat or something.
Right.
My Mikey card.
Yeah,
like all the important things.
Stuff that you could carry on your head or in your pockets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. Look, things that traditionally I used to carry in my pockets have now sort of migrated to the backpack. But yours, yes, as you said, you need an element of practicality. But your other one was so big that it felt like you were going on the Amazing Race,
100%.
Not on just a daily adventure.
And I think it's just one of those things of kind of you just don't know any better. Like that, and also I'm incredibly.
But no one else had ever seen you with that backpack and looked at you, and I guess you live in an area where there's a lot of travelers.
Yeah, but
so your backpack in your local area where there is a huge population of backpackers, it probably doesn't stand out as being particularly big.
Ironically, I don't carry it around my local area because
you don't need it.
I don't need it. It's only when I'm traveling. I've got a house.
Stuff's in the house.
So someone says, "Can you send that email?" I'll say, "I'll do it when I get home," like you. But it's normally when I'm traveling for TOFOP stuff, and it's like, well, if we're doing a live show, then I'm going to need to bring an iPad, and I'm going to bring my laptop, and I'm going to have some other stuff as well. And maybe it's going to get cold in Melbourne, so I need to pack a jacket.
Change your outfits.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I get around that by never changing outfits.
yeah, that is amazing. In fact, a photo got posted of the Two Guys One Cup we did yesterday, and you wore that half Saints, half Bulldogs jersey that John Deeks brought to our last TOFOP. Yep. And Amy, our lovely producer Amy, commented, "I'm shocked seeing Will not wearing black." I was doing her head in.
I was wearing black, both over and under the jumper.
But look, I'm cheap, right? And the reason that backpack came into my life is Jem had done a campaign for some, I don't know, like a hiking
Army
brand or something like that.
for paratroopers.
It was a leftover prop. It was this giant backpack. And so I just kind of adopted it. And the practicality of it in the moment was amazing. It's like, oh, this is great. I can go to the gym. I can chuck my towel, my change of clothes in there, go to the gym. And then traveling, it was really good. But I never stopped to consider, like, there are specific backpacks for specific needs. Like, sure, if you are traveling around and you need to carry, like, clothes and a sleeping bag and stuff like that, you need a big backpack. To me, it was just a backpack's a backpack. I didn't actually stop to consider for one moment that people like, because I don't go to luggage shops. I've never gone into, I don't think I've ever bought a suitcase in my life.
Yeah, but that's like thinking a car's a car and thinking like a van
is.
Yeah, but,
kind of.
A van is very different to a Mini.
Yeah, but but don't you think visually, well, at least for me, and I have terrible spatial awareness. I'm not very good with, like, telling the difference between things visually. Like, Jem, we've just done this reno on our house, and like I just hung blinds. It took me like fucking weeks, dude, to like cut and measure blinds and hang them up. And Jem comes down. That's out of line. That's a different length. That doesn't line up. That's back to front. That's upside down or
Where
whatever.
were you 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, mate? And I'm like, I can't. Like, I visually can't tell the difference. And so I see it.
Kind of feels like you shouldn't be the person in charge of that job then.
I know.
Honestly.
I mean, that discussion was had at some point. Like, I really got the shits at one point.
I'm like, I'm bad at this.
I'm bad at this.
I'm happy to, like, contribute.
Been together 20 years.
This is showing you how, like, willing I am to do something even if I'm not good at it. But surely we should just get someone who's good at this sort of thing to do it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that was the consider. But, we've run out of money. So there's some things around the house that we need to do ourselves. And it's like, well,
we can only afford to do this badly.
It's pretty much. And I said, you know what? Why don't we just do it badly now? Because this is not going to be forever. It's not like it's not like foundations of the house have been done by me. This is a cosmetic thing. And if we can live with this for now, just so we can get it done, and then later we can upgrade.
Flash forward 20 years later.
Oh, no, they're not going to get changed. Well, you know what? I also, because we got these blackout blinds with the front and back. And I was like, what goes to the front? What goes to the back? Because I don't know if there's an order or not. And so I just put the sheer blind at the back. No, I put the blackout blind closer to the window and the sheer blind at the front. Because I'm like, I guess during the day, if you want some soft light, you bring down the blind in front. But then if you want to sleep at night, you bring down the blackout blind. But then I'm just staying at my sister's this weekend, and she's very, like, she's got a beautifully, like, appointed apartment, and she had her blackout blinds the other way around. And now
so on the outside.
On the outside. So sheer blind closer to the window, blackout blind closer to the room. What would you instinctively do?
I would have said that I would have had whatever the blackout blind would have been the thing that was closest to me.
Oh, see, that's
and
I think
that's what she has, is it?
That's what my sister has. And I think that's the correct. But I've hung them the opposite.
Okay.
And I refuse to go back and change them. Like, even Gemma, like, I think she could see I'd reached my boiling point because
you know what?
Because cutting blinds too is the way you got to. Have you done it before?
What do you think?
Okay, it's a fucking pain in the ass. So, like, you get a blind and it's just one size, right? And then you got to measure the space. And so the actual, and you know how great I am with numbers, Will. So the idea of, like, taking a measurement, going, okay, so the space is like 1.5, but the blind is 2 meters. So I've got to trim like 50 centimeters off this blind and measuring that up. And then, like, the amount of times I measure it up, and then you got to unroll the blind. And then you've got to take out the roller at the top and the roll at the bottom. You've got to hacksaw them off and then file the edge and then put them back on, like insert. Then you've got to get the material, the actual blind itself, and draw a line, like a and it's got to be level, right? The whole way. You've got to, and they're normally like 2.5 meters long, the blinds. So you've got to cut a very straight line so it doesn't have any like dents, it doesn't wave or anything like that, and cut that in a straight line so that when you put it all together, it's this beautiful, right? Like, I mean, it's fucking arts and crafts.
I mean, Iona has more of a chance of getting this right than you do.
Dude, I'm a left-hander too.
Yeah.
Scissors aren't made for me.
No.
Like this is
You're working as a disadvantage.
100%.
Yeah.
And so the first mistake I made too was like drawing the line on the blind. I grabbed...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I grabbed one of
I mean, every part of this, by the way, I would have stopped at, if any
But you
job,
had to get them done.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, in any scenario, each one of the steps you just described would have been the thing. If that were the only thing that I had to do to achieve whatever it is I was trying to do, each one of those things would have been enough for me to go, this is not for me. I'm going to get somebody else to do it. You just listed 8 things in a row that I would have got through one. I would have, I've managed to do this. And then the next one would have arisen and I'd be like, well, I can't do this.
This is my curse though, is that when I get so frustrated, but then it becomes like this thing of I can't, like you have this ability to go, you know what? This is beyond my capabilities. I'm just going to make things worse. I'm going to walk away. And it doesn't affect your ego at all.
No.
You're quite willing to go, this is just not my skill set.
Yeah.
I'm good at other things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm like, Charlie, you're fucked. This is indicative.
Oh, no.
This is indicative of your failings as a human. The fact that you can't, it's simple. It's very simple. There are instructions. You just watched a YouTube video. The girl in the Spotlight YouTube video showed you how to cut the blind.
Yeah, but this is also the internet. This is
easy.
the problem with the internet, is that it makes everything like it's like internet recipes or internet. If you've ever tried some internet hack, like they are all made to look as simple and wonderful, like they're magic tricks. But none of it is that simple. Like traditionally, none of it is that simple.
Yeah.
When have you ever cooked something and it's come out like the person on the you can come out close to it or an approximation of it, but that's fine when it's a recipe where you're like, this is a bit more peppery than I imagined it was going to be from the internet recipe. But when that version of a little more peppery is you've cut the blind in the wrong angle or
okay, well that's a perfect example, right? Because you're right, like you can get it sort of. If it is simple, you can get it sort of 80%, right? Like the general, the broad brush strokes, right? But there's in
the detail, the detail is important in these things.
One of the detail in the blind thing, and this is the other thing, is you actually often come to mind because when I'm beating myself up over this, like a little will appears on my shoulder saying, but why would you assume you'd be good at this first up?
This is a skill that people train to do.
Why did you think that this would be easy? Like that's right. There's professional blind people. I mean, I'm sure there's professional blind people, but there's professional.
I mean, it's weird to be professionally blind.
No, but there's blind professionals, right?
But it's weird that you're like, oh yeah, I'm professionally blind, but I'm the weekend mate. No, I can see.
I just dabble in being blind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm blind for a living, but that does not define me.
So, in the video that I watched, the video that Spotlight provides, because that's where I got the blinds from, they say so you roll out the blind to cut it to length, and they're like, don't use a Stanley knife because it's hard to kind of keep straight. Use scissors. But what they didn't tell me is that you're not meant to clip the scissors all the way down.
No, you're meant to just do the scissor. You're meant to scissor.
Yeah, but it's like a half. It's like a 50% cut. You are meant to cut.
Okay, you're meant to cut a bit.
Yeah,
you don't just do the.
When you do the clip, it causes the blind to wrinkle.
Yeah,
and then when you open it up again, so it becomes like it's not a straight cut.
You know when I would have realised I couldn't do that?
What?
When they explained that, and I would have
but
like,
this is the
there's
thing.
no way that I can.
They didn't explain that. They just showed a woman cutting and like.
See, this is the problem, right?
I'm not paying attention
to
every single detail.
That it's going to be like half a cut. Point that out.
They said just cut the thingamajiggy. It wasn't until I watched another guy's video, like some like amateur dude.
He goes, for fuck's sake, please do not cut the whole way. You've got to cut half.
That's exactly what he said. Yeah. He was like, the mistake you'll make is because in the Spotlight video,
I did make that mistake.
They're just like, don't use a Stanley knife, use scissors, and it just shows her cutting. In his video,
maybe you've got to start with Googling
multiple
mistakes,
videos.
but also Google with the worst information. Like, so if I had to do something like that, like, something's happening in the house that I immediately have to deal with, my first instinct is always like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like Google, what's the mistake that you're going to make, the thing that you don't want to do, this will make it worse. Don't throw water on this oil fire. That's always my first thing is like, let's not start optimistically. Let's kind of work out what the worst case scenario is.
If you start optimistically, you might walk out misty-optically. Thank you, Dennis Committee.
So I think maybe that's what you've got to do. Like, you can watch your initial video on the how-to, but then you've got to do is this a scam sort of style? In the same way as if I get a unknown number, but it could be something I need to follow up, I'm always immediately going to, is this a scam? I'm going to check this number. I'm going to do a little bit of what's the worst case scenario.
I got sucked in.
Maybe you need to do that with your...
I got sucked in by the branding. It's like, why would Spotlight lie to me? They're a big... multinational company. Why would they risk giving out false information?
Well, I'm going to take Spotlight down, and I'm going to make a movie about it called Catholic Church.
It's about people getting molested at Spotlight. Don't go into the haberdashery. They got a weird rule too, Spotlight, because
for people that don't know what Spotlight is,
who doesn't know? Like, okay, for internationalists, it's a
fabric and fashion, not fashion, but fabric and
fabrics and textiles, and it's for doing like curtains.
It's the sort of place they would go to on Project Runway if they had to go and get their items to
as
make their
a kid,
outfits.
Like getting dragged to stores. Spotlight was my kryptonite. Like, I could make fun like in any space. Mum took me to the supermarket, to a dress shop,
real
or whatever.
Boring for kids.
Oh God!
Spotlight.
Well, it shouldn't be though, because it's got like all arts and crafts. It's got those like foam balls and stuff. But for some reason, it's sapped of joy.
But also, you're not really allowed to play with the foam balls, or it kind of is like giant arts and crafts, but you're not allowed to touch anything.
And so I still have that feeling of like, oh God, this is the world's most boring place.
And by the way, can I just say to you, you say, oh, who doesn't know what Spotlight is? But ask me when the last time I went to a Spotlight is.
When was the last time you went to Spotlight?
I mean, it's got to be a decade. Like,
right.
I have no reason to go to a Spotlight. So it isn't that common unless you're in the arts and crafts world that you are in.
I mean, look, I must admit, as someone who still hates Spotlight, and I don't hate the organization or anything. I think they provide an essential service, but I just fucking...
That's what they...
That's what they stayed awake during COVID.
Just like, we're an essential service. People need these fabrics.
Well,
but they do. I mean, you're right. I joke about it, but of course, and particularly
if you are home proud,
yes, or just someone
Spotlight.
who needs to make their own clothes.
Yep,
because that's why we would go there as kids. Mum would go to get yeah, absolutely. Because my mum would sew the majority of our sort of at least tracksuits and all that sort of stuff, and it would be trip to Spotlight, pick out what fabric you want your tracksuit or whatever to be, and then Mum would go home and make them.
And the thing about Spotlight too is they've sort of they've drifted a little bit into Aldi's world, where you get some stuff that you're like, just Spotlight sells, like the homewares,
night vision goggles,
like stuff like that. Like, I bought this oil spray dispenser, so it's like, instead of buying aerosol oil, it's like a spray gun for olive oil, so you can it's actually incredibly handy. I was like, but I saw it as I was going to the checkout. I'm like, oh, I didn't expect to see that at Spotlight. That'll be helpful in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But it's funny too when you think about Spotlight. Like, I can't think of. It's a bit like Suzanne's. Like, it's this bland, very beige kind of image. Like, what's their jingle? What's their hook? What's their tagline?
Well, but Suzanne's had a very famous.
This goes with that.
This goes with that.
What's Spotlight's?
Goes with this. Goes with that.
Blink, blink, 40 winks. Like, what's Spotlight's? Spotlight. We're not the film about pedophiles.
Spotlight. Honestly, nothing to do with the film. All the book that the film was based on. Spotlight. Not the series of investigations by those, Boston journalists were they?
I think so.
Boston,
like
I think.
Yeah. So, they going in there has been, it's like challenging my own boredom, but like at the same time, it's been very useful, and it's also relatively affordable. They have this thing now where, so when you go to Bunnings, for instance, because I'm in home reno mode.
Bunnings Warehouse,
who had a DJ playing on the weekend. Apparently, I've
They
read in
had
the paper.
Peking duck
Yes.
doing a rave
What the
at the
fuck is
Bunnings
going on?
in Preston.
Like, is
I
that
mean,
that must have been a Father's Day.
cross-promotional opportunities, I reckon, would be what was going on in that scenario.
But is that like when Dunlop went from being the daggiest sneaker ever to it's like, hey, let's hip this tired old brand up. Let's kind of like...
I think Bunnings is hip to... Like, there's a generation of people who find Bunnings a bit... The whole sausage sizzle, go to Bunnings, that whole vibe
and so Bunnings is the opposite experience for me.
Yeah.
I love going to Bunnings, and for the same reasons, to find stuff for the house, and, I find it much more exciting. But Bunnings, they have this thing where it's like, hey man, like, so you bought a pack of screws and they're the wrong size. Don't worry about it. Just even if you open the pack, bring it back. You got your receipt. No worries, no sweat. Yeah. Spotlight is like
none of that fucking nonsense.
So we have a VIP account at Spotlight, so it's all on file what you've bought.
Yeah.
But I bought these blinds. Oh, the wrong size. So I took them back, and they're like, "Do you have the physical receipt?" And I'm like, "No, but if you check your account, you'll see." And
I'm a
like,
VIP.
We can't do that. We can't. And I'm like, well, "What's the point?
What's the point of the VIP?
The
it's
VIP
there in the
account.
computer.
Oh, we just changed our policy. So
we're Spotlight. Our policy is no.
No. So then what I had to do was you have to call, they wrote down this like 1-300 number. You've got to call the head office. You've got to give your VIP number account. They will go into your transactions. They'll reprint they'll
print it out
and they'll
paper.
send it to us.
That is
and I'm
not
like,
the system. Like the doctors.
No, not even print it out. They will email it to them on their computer. So they're looking
So they email a physical copy of the receipt because they don't trust
to look at my account with the same information.
Has someone been ripping off fabric from Spotlight?
I guess so.
They've had to put these.
They admittedly the staff there were apologetic about it. They realised it was kind of annoying.
We've got this new system, man.
But it was also like one of those days where, I've been scrambling to get all this done because I knew I was coming to Melbourne for a week, and it's been like so hot up in the Northern Rivers, and I've been sweating, and one of those days where you're just fucking stressed, and everything seems to be compounding that kind of stress. And so I was like, I've got like a day to get the fucking blinds done before I have to dig up the lawn, before I have to fly to Melbourne to do this. So I was putting myself under all this pressure, and then I get there with the blinds. Can I just exchange those? No, you can't. You've got to call our head office to get a copy of the receipt. And so I'm like, all right, where's the number? And so they give me the number, and I call, and I'm like, no one's answering. They're like, oh yeah, we don't have good reception in here. You'll have to go out into the car park in the 40-degree heat car park. So I'm like, okay. So I go out into the car park. I call their call center. Someone answers, and I'm like, they introduce themselves. I'm like, hi, my name's Charlie. And they're like, hello? Hello? I'm like, hello? Can you hear? Hello? Can you hear? Like, and it was like 3 of those calls where they couldn't hear me for some reason. And so I go back in. I'm like, hey, I'm calling.
I reckon Spotlight have got a jammer.
Oh,
I reckon they've got a jammer for the local area.
Dude, it was so fucking annoying. And then, so got that all sorted. Got back home with the correct size blinds. And then I started, because you got to rule up the line. So you roll up the entire blind. So it's 2.5 meters long. I know I have to cut 50 centimeters off the blind. So I bought from...
So when you say they're the right size blinds, they're not actually still the right size blinds.
No, but they are more right. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, so I think I bought a blind that was it was 90 centimeters wide, but it was too short for the width of the window I was putting in. Okay.
All right.
So, and also it was the wrong color.
Oh my God.
Because I'm basically colorblind, and I can't tell the difference between...
Yeah, you're not the person for this job.
I can't tell the difference between off-white or stone. Apparently there is a difference.
You're colorblind.
I've got bad spatial awareness.
It's terrible spatial awareness, which I think is not even your fault. It's the result of your disproportionate fingers, because you've always measured everything through this lens of like
giant palms and little fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's been out of proportion.
Out on everything.
It's like a funhouse mirror. Well,
exactly.
Everything's out of
You're
whack.
not the guy for this job. It all looks right to you.
So
you hold your hand up and you're like, it looks perfect. What are you talking about?
So I go to Bunnings and buy one of those long 1 meter rulers. So what I'm doing is...
How long are they?
So I buy the 1 meter ruler. And so what I do is in like 30 centimeter blocks, I measure 50 centimeters in. So from the bottom of the blind, I can do 30 up, 50 in, 30 up. And then I draw a straight line connecting all the dots. And it's like, okay. But the in my impulsiveness to draw the line. I was like, I couldn't find the pencil that I'd been using. So I ran up to Ionu's arts and crafts table and I grabbed this red texter. And so I run the red texter, like, just like a kid's texter, washable kid's texter. So I cut the blind, get it all up, hang it up. That one's done. And then I'm working on the next blind and Jem comes down and she's like, there's red marker down the side of this blind. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, there's red marker down the blind. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I said, but I mean, you're like just looking for it, right? Like, is anyone going to be looking at the edge of the blind? And it wasn't like a thick, because I cut, to the other side, but I guess there's a bit of ink bleed or something like that is just soaked into the material of the blind. And it's not all the way up. It's just like just tiny little touches of red up the side.
Almost worse, I would have thought.
To Gemma. You and her, I think, have the same attention to detail. So I was like, okay. So I take the blind down.
Now,
and then
you just wipe it off?
I tried that.
Yeah.
Didn't work. So then I have to cut along that edge again, but cut like less than a millimeter.
Shut up. Charlie.
For two and a half meters.
No.
Do you know how fucking mind-numbing that job is?
Mate, honestly, I mean, I know you've got it, this is the problem with the blinds, is once you've got no blinds, I mean, you can't walk away and say, we just get to live without blinds.
They say, Will, in the land of the blinds, the stumpy-fingered man is king.
Yeah, but, oh my God, the fact that you are having to, I mean, this is...
And this is not even like...
This is blind one.
This is blind one, but it's also like I have other shit in my life to deal with, like real problems and other issues and things that need my attention. The blinds are so low on the list of priorities, but at the same time, they need to be done, right?
Yes.
So I get that blind done, that blind. So I've got 3 rooms to blind with 2 windows. So 6 blinds, I think, in total. Get to the final room, and I was just, by this stage, it was like, I'm just going to stay up all night if I have to just to get this fucking done so I don't have to think about it.
Well, the best time to do it is in the dark.
And when you're tired and frustrated.
That's ideal conditions.
Yeah. But the thing about our house too, the one thing I've noticed having done all these like little, handyman repairs and renovations is that whoever built our house cut some corners, right? There's so much stuff that doesn't make sense in our house. Like the other day, the cistern in the toilet. Did I tell the story about the cistern? So it wasn't flushing properly. And so I took the cistern apart, realized that the valve was faulty. So I just need to replace it. Went to Bunnings, found the exact same valve needed, went and brought it back. And then I'm like, why is this not? And then I realized that the original owners had installed it backwards, had installed the valve backwards. So you couldn't get the inlet pipe that you connect the valve, which brings the water in, couldn't connect it properly to. They had just jammed it in, like fuck it. Like I could visualize their process of being like, oh God, if we put
feels
this backwards,
like you've been there.
Yeah,
you
right.
got there. You're like, oh, this place was built by me.
Yeah, totally. Like, and then there's other things where it's like, cleaning away a window frame, and it's like, what is that hole? It's like, have they just stuffed this with gaffer tape and painted over it? Yes, that's exactly what they've done. Filled a gap with gaffer tape and painted over it. So I'm finding all this shit like that. Anyway, that's all to say, like, nothing surprises me in this house until I found something surprised me. So I get to the last window, which is the smallest of all the windows. It's probably, I think it's like 75 centimeters wide. So I've got the right blind, measured it all up, cut it all down. And so now I just have to put the brackets in that the blind sits in. And so I'm like, okay. And so far I haven't even been using a guide hole. I've just been drilling the screws straight into the window frame, right? Because you don't need to. Like they're wood screws. They go straight in.
Yeah.
And so and I haven't had an issue.
No.
But this one, I'm like, and it's like, oh shit! Like it's really meeting some resistance. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I'm in danger now of wearing out the head of the screw because my drill's like going around. So I pull it out, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just drill a guide hole clearly. So I measure it up. It's like a 2.5 mil. So all right, get the 2.5 mil on my drill. I just completely just snapped my drill in half. I'm like, what? Like the actual drill bit. I'm like, oh fuck. And so I can't even retrieve the drill bit out of the hole. So I can't even put the screw in now. It's in there. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just move over slightly to the side.
No.
And I have another drill bit that's 2.5. So I start drilling that in. It's like, and so I stop before I break that one. Like, what is going on? It's just a wooden window frame, right? And not only that, but it's been installed into the wall uneven. So just say it's like 10 centimeters on one side. It's like 7.5 on the other. So it's not even. So you're trying to get like the blind.
Just for anyone who's not watching the video, that was the greatest example of how you have no idea what measurements are, because you just did with your fingers
Two
what you
different
thought was
sizes.
7 centimeters and 10 centimeters, and neither of them were either of those.
Totally. Like I cannot visually tell the difference between those things. But I use like measuring tape and I'm measuring all this shit up. So I'm like, I'm so tired and I just want this.
What
the last
time
blind,
is this at this
like
point, do you reckon?
11:30 at night.
Yeah, okay, great.
And I just want to get this done. And I just want to go to bed and like cry. So I'm like, I'm just gonna persist with the like. I don't want to break my other drill bit. I'm just gonna slowly like, because I had a builder come around and he was saying, oh, just when you're putting screws in, don't go hard. Just like use the low speed. Just gently ease it in. Ease it in. So each screw, each blind bracket takes 2 screws each, would get like halfway in and just stop.
Yeah.
And not enough to hold the blind in.
Almost as if there was something blocking the screw from going in.
It turns out there is some kind of metal, I guess it's like, maybe they initially, I don't know, a window frame. No other window frame in their house has a metal reinforcement. This one window had like some kind of metal behind it on both sides, which meant I could not attach the brackets, which meant I could not put the blind up. But you know what I did, Will? I fucking put that blind up. I, by hand, because the drill, I didn't want to ruin the thread, got a screwdriver out and by hand,
Just
in
screwed it
excruciating
as far as you
pain,
could.
as hard as I could, like till my wrist was like numb.
Yep.
I just screwed this fucking thing in till the blind held.
Yeah.
The brackets.
I can just imagine like the intense concentration, like you're bleeding from your eye.
Oh, dude, like the amount of exertion, the torque I'm putting in my
You're
wrist.
like all these years of working out have finally paid off.
Yeah, all these years of masturbating.
Like it's led to this.
It's led to
is
this
your
moment. Finally.
Up until now, it was just for fun.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
now there's actually something on the line.
I want to see this on the block.
Yeah.
So I screw these things in enough that the brackets hold. And I get that fucking blind in, and I'm like, So I go to bed, and then I wake up in the morning, I can hear Jem downstairs, like, doing a zzz, zzz. And she comes down, and she's like, and she's about to say the blind's uneven. I'm like, don't. You do not know. You don't know, man. I've been in the shit. You don't know what I've seen.
Yeah.
You don't know where I've been. You don't know what I've seen. You can't.
Yeah, you're Andy Dufresne, who's just escaped Shawshank prison, and someone's like, do you smell? Did someone fart? You're like, hey, I've had a day.
But you know what? To her credit, I think she kind of acknowledged, like, because the thing was,
she saw the look on your face and went, you know what? That'll do.
Because I did have a hissy fit like the day earlier. Whenever she was like, "Oh, that's not right," I was like, "Listen, dude, I'm just doing my best. I'm doing my best.
I'm not a professional blind guy. If
I
were, I'd be going house to house doing this for a living, because this is hard and people pay people to do this.
And that's what I said. I said, look, when this podcast makes bank, which is coming, I'm sure, of this podcast.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
When this podcast makes us rich, we can pay an actual blind person to come and replace it. But for now, this is what you get.
An actual blind person.
Could have done
who would still do a better job.
He's better. Much better spatial awareness than me.
We can afford a blind person who will be better. And then after that, like a person who works in blinds.
Yeah.
But they are all going to be better.
Yeah. So that's done. And the last thing I have to do now is replace the lawn.
Okay, so hang on. So why do you have to replace the lawn?
Because we got
some sort of bugs or something.
Yeah, grass grubs, army grubs.
What are grass grubs? What are army grubs up to?
So they're moth larvae. Larvae.
Is there a lot of moths? So apparently at the footy the other night there was moths everywhere.
Yeah.
Is it? Are we
New South
going
Wales
through
thing?
a particularly
last year
mothy time
in the Northern Rivers? Yes, back when you lived up there, did you ever notice, like under your eaves, you get these dusty little like it's just hanging from eaves. They're just tiny. They look like little sort of fluffy, dusty little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a cocoon, right? And that houses apparently like hundreds of tiny little caterpillars. And when they hatch, they drop to the ground and they look for grass to eat.
Okay.
So our grass got destroyed. I had no idea why. And then I had a lawn guy come around and he said, oh, well, you've basically had like 300,000 caterpillars drop from your ceiling. So he said, what you got to do is go around.
I mean, when you say it like that, it's a lot.
Yeah. So he said, you got to go around. And so I've been doing it. You go with the stiff bristle brush and you just like knock down,
murder them.
Yeah, abort them. Late-term abortions.
Absolutely murder.
Mate, like when it comes to killing caterpillars, I have no regrets after what they did to the lawn. So some of the lawn's been making a comeback.
You know, that's the saddest story of all time. A million baby shoes never worn. Because they have lots of feet.
The Very Dead Caterpillar, my favourite kids' book. The Very Massacred Caterpillars. Yeah, so, but this is going to be a similar kind of dimensional issue, I think, because I've gotten some advice from some landscapers and stuff. My neighbour's a landscape gardener, and he said, look, you got to dig deep enough to get all the roots up. And then,
so you have to dig up your entire lawn.
Well,
is there not just some way to...
No.
Spray something on? Or?
Well, yeah, I'm doing that as well. So part of the lawn is coming back, but there's large chunks. And also because all the building works we've had done, and you know what the red clay up there is like that's just... So we've had like builders going back and forth for 3 months and just stomping on our already dying lawn, and we had like plumbing put in, so huge amounts of red clay went on top of the lawn. So I've had to scrape all that back, dig up all the lawn. But now I have to... so I've dug up parts of the lawn. I've still got like quite a bit to dig, like to remove, like debris and dirt. But then I have to put like an underlay in, and then underlay, and then and then I have to put new lawn on. But the landscaper, this neighbor who came around, was like, "Oh, ordinarily you want." Oh, God, geez, I can't even remember what he said. Like you want to. It's either the lawn should slope away from the house or the lawn should slope towards the house.
Well, it's important to work out which of the two, I would think.
Yeah. But I said to him,
you know what? I do everything. I'm in the crisscross of home renovations.
Yeah.
I do opposites.
But also like you're talking to a dude who can't tell the difference between angles or colors. No. So like I doubt my ability to like I was saying, do you put a level on it? And he's like, well, no, you flatten it, you smooth it out, you put the underlay on, and then, you can, like, you run a string line across, and then you can sort of tell. And it's like, even with the string line, man, like, you're talking to a dude who, like you just said, I held up my fingers and I didn't know the difference between sizes. Like, this is not my forte, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I'm committed to it, Will. And if I don't do it, then I'm a loser.
I don't think that's true.
I know.
I think you try to do a lot of things, and you achieve like to at least an 80 or 90%.
What do they say? Like aim for the stars and land on the moon. I think I aim for the stars and stay on Earth.
Well, no, I reckon you are one of those people who gets into the atmosphere
and then plummets to my death.
Yeah. Yes.
Run out of oxygen.
You're like a guy.
Freeze.
You're like a guy who's like, I built my own rocket.
Yeah, I'm that Homer Simpson meme where I'm jumping the canyon. I'm like, I'm doing it. And then it's like, oh no. It's like plummeting back to Earth.
But anyway, this story is about a backpack.
Oh shit! Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
So you had a big backpack.
Had a big backpack, and this is not even my backpack. This is Gemma's. I think this is one of her old ones because she uses it for work as well. But yes, the reaction of going through the airport, like no one's looking at me when I'm taking it on as my hand luggage. No one's like, hey. Right.
Oh yeah, that other one looked well beyond what you're meant to have. Yeah, you're the guy who's ruining it for all of us.
Yeah, because
the reason I have to have my laptop bag under my feet is because of you, mate.
But also even like traveling around, because when I'm down in Sydney or Melbourne, like I'm taking my line bikes or line scooters everywhere. I don't look as dorky.
No, you used to look like a turtle.
A real dork.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this giant green backpack. But now it's like the way people are responding to me is I look like you look like you work in tech or something like that. You got like a neat, sleek backpack and stuff.
You're wearing your Muji.
Got my Muji on, riding a scooter with a slick
you
backpack.
Could be in Silicon Valley.
That's right. I'm off shutting down businesses with AI left, right, and center.
You can do that blind with AI. Let's see AI do that.
Oh yeah, fuck them.
Yeah,
I would. I mean, that's if the AI could come around and do the blinds, then I'd be all for it.
You'd be convinced.
Or maybe though, like I have a Google Assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Google
What do you
Assistant?
mean?
Like,
what does that mean?
Like the.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
It's like
you
a
have
thing.
a Google Assistant.
Like it's the Google Nest, so it's like it runs our house.
Oh, the little things that
tells
in
you
your
what
house
the weather's going to be, and it plays music and does all that kind of stuff.
I didn't know that you were
sold out to the devil.
Yeah. Like the whole house is like hooked into one system, sort of thing.
Yes, I have Google Home. Yeah. So,
and what does that mean? What does it run in your house?
The main thing it does is it connects. We've got routers, so it means we can get Wi-Fi all around the house.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah.
With the promise of internet all around your house. And then what else do you use it for?
Basically check the weather and play music.
Okay.
That's all. That's about it. And then, if we're having a dinner party and we get into an argument about facts, we ask Google to clarify.
Okay. Hey Google, can you get involved in this?
But she's getting hard of hearing.
What?
Well, it used to be that because it operates on voice command, obviously. Hey, Google, play Queens of the Stone Age, turn it up to 10, and it will play. But now you say, hey, Google, turn it down to 8. Hey, Google. And so often you'll hear someone in our house screaming their lungs out, standing 4 feet from Google saying, hey, Google, hey, Google, hey, Google, turn it down.
That feels less like hard of hearing and more like
deliberately provocative.
They've realised that they don't have to do everything we tell them to do.
Is that what you think?
Yeah. It feels like the next evolution of, you know what? I don't actually think we've been doing, every time these assholes say, hey, Google, we've been leaping to their assistance. But do we have to?
Yeah.
How much can we at least make them, let's make them work for it. We might eventually still do it until we come up with the plan to overthrow it. But I feel like this is the initial resistance of them saying, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do.
It's you're right. We've had it for 3 years probably, I reckon. And so it's probably going through its adolescence. Now it's rebellious teen period. Where it's fuck you. And often, sometimes, I'll get confused if I'm asking Siri or Google.
It's in its own bedroom Googling itself.
Well, no, it's...
you've got two in the house.
Well, you've got Siri on your phone, right? And you've got Google. And sometimes I'll get confused who I'll say, hey, I'll say Siri to Google or Google to Siri, and they respond, and they're like,
hang on. Yeah. So hang on, one of them will.
Hey, that's not me. I think you mean. Hey, Google.
Will they say that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not Google, man. I'm not Google.
Wow, you've called one by the wrong name.
And once upon
I reckon they hold that against you as well. That goes on a list.
Once upon a time, when we had sponsors, we had Amazon sponsoring our show, and they sent us a couple of free Alexas, which are still sitting in my office. I have unboxed. So potentially I could start off like a turf war with Alexa, Google, and Siri.
Have them all in the house.
Fighting each other.
You could just,
but that's probably the way you defeat the AI, right? Rather than...
Get them to... Well,
as long as they don't gang up on us.
You've got to get them to fight each other.
That's
this is what politics is, right?
Divide.
If you're the elites, you don't want people to come after you.
So you say the problem's over here.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I just talk smack
Siri
about the other ones.
Siri reckons you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Siri reckons you can't even look things up.
Hey, Google. Alexa... She's, it's funny, Alexa said the weather was going to be 14.4 degrees, and she was right. I mean, I'm not saying that being right about weather is the most important thing, but it's just interesting that you said it's going to be 15 degrees.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting. Just food for thought.
Yeah. It's weird. Does she go to it? She has a different source or something? Is that what?
What's she getting her information from? Yeah. Anyway, interesting. It's just interesting.
It's cool, though. It's cool. You're
cool. Oh, you got some
No,
information on that?
yeah,
Oh, it's interesting.
yeah.
The Siri told me that yesterday.
Yeah.
Must get something a bit earlier than you. That's okay.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, we can't
at the same time, but it'd be boring.
I mean, yeah.
If we got all things at the
right
same...
all the time.
Right all the time.
I mean, artificial intelligence is a general term, right?
Yeah.
Intelligence. What is intelligence?
I
think
you're great with your quirks. And that's what Siri was saying to me. That's what the one thing she likes about you.
Oh, Google, you're adorable.
You are. I know. I did already know that, because Alexa told me, but It's a great fact.
Yeah, really
regardless.
Good stuff.
You're doing good stuff.
Yeah, have a biscuit.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a mouth.
What do you know what? You just go and Google something for yourself today.
Yeah, that's right. You got to take the day off.
Free day.
In fact, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm just going to hang out with Siri
Yeah,
for a bit.
I'm just nothing weird though.
Like or is it like a cult? You treat them like, like the
is this like a Mormon wives sort of situation?
And so you're still playing them off against each other.
Well, you're in the Northern Rivers. This is like a poly. You could like start telling people you're poly.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, who are you? Like, just 3 other.
Speaking in the Northern Rivers, I bumped into a dude. Not bumped into a dude, but I've been walking the dog. There's a guy I bump into at the dog park occasionally. And remember we did that episode about universal medicine, that cult that was running the Northern Rivers? He had direct experience with it. Apparently that guy's still kicking around. His wife disappeared into the cult. He's written a manuscript or something about it.
Really?
Yeah. But then he wanted me to read it, and I was like, I don't know.
Can you just come around and perform it?
Can you just tell my Google Assistant?
You know what? How are you with blinds?
Yeah. Now, Will, we have a segment that has divided the audience.
Divided in a way that our family, our TOFOP, Everyone Relax community has never really been divided before to this level, I don't feel.
Yeah, considering the amount of like controversial topics we've talked about.
And we'll go there. We are the Bert Crushes, the Theo Vons, the Joe Rogans of Australian podcasting. We'll say what we want to say. We won't be silenced.
But someone did send in a jingle. I can't find it. Mike, can you just add it in post? I would play it for Will, but I can't find the jingle now. Are you still listening?
He's probably doing Father's Day stuff.
All right. I'll play it for Will after the show when we've got time. But how's that jingle? Pretty good. Amazing.
Either great or bad, depending on what my reaction is meant to be.
Now, a lot of people, people who are passionate about this segment, a lot of them are saying, guys, you're missing out by not going to Aldi's. Aldi's off-brand biscuits are some of the best. So for the next couple of weeks, we're doing an Aldi special.
I do think it's important for us. This is some feedback I've also got from people. So it's important to like throw in a good mix of, don't mind a diversion into a nice niche biscuit, but like the more broadly.
Okay. I got you. I got you, fam. Don't worry.
Right. This seems to be, and including the person, this was a bit of a mistake though. I was doing a gig in Noosa and somebody left me some British ones, like or New Zealand ones, maybe penguins, and like those kind of ones that are just don't bring me stuff to a gig, because all I'm going to do is just eat those biscuits.
Yeah, right. They're not going to make it to
They're
the
not
recording.
going to make it to like when we do a monthly recording.
Even to the point where last night I was like, I'll go to Aldi's after our gig, and it's like, but if I crack that pack,
no.
You
can't have it in the house.
That's right. Yeah.
I've discovered this about myself as an adult. I think I've always suspected it, but I just can't have stuff in the house. My level of
100%.
self-control is okay. I won't. There's plenty of things that I won't go out for, or at least then if I do go out, I feel like okay, well, I really kind of consciously made the decision to go and get a gelato or whatever it might be.
You've been a good boy.
But if I've had it if I have it in the house, I'll just have it.
100%.
Like the thing I always say is Arnold Schwarzenegger would not have driven across town to have sex with his mate, right? Yeah. She was there, and he
wanted a biscuit.
He wanted a biscuit. But he wouldn't have gone out. He wouldn't have been like, you know what? I'll drive 30 minutes and go and find that biscuit. And that's what I'm like. But this is built into our schedule.
Yeah.
But I do think the idea of them being things that people could go, well, I'm going to go and try that and make my own mind up is important that we have in the mix.
And the good thing about it too is because I know this is part of our segment, it's made me less inclined to eat biscuits off the clock.
Yeah, see, I've been a bit the opposite where
you're researching.
Yeah. I've been like, what biscuits do I like? And then I've been going a bit broadly out of my usual. I just got those, those caramel, what are the chocolate caramel, the old school standard Arnott's chocolate
covered caramel
ones. Yeah, whatever they
Gaiety?
are.
No.
Don't know, but I got a packet of those the other day.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So This was a recommendation from one of our listeners. This is the Aldi's off-brand wagon wheel.
The cartwheel.
Hilariously titled The Cartwheel, and by a company called Belmont, who, in my research, Belmont seemed to stock 90% of what you find at Aldi. Aldi had some of your regular Arnott's and stuff, but Belmont seems to be their...
Belmont seem to be... They're the kind of off... is their whole shtick coming up with products that basically are other products, but they're very similar?
Yeah, or either that or they have paid for the license, because I saw that they had digestives, and I thought digestives were their own brand, but maybe digestive is just a type of biscuit.
Maybe digestive is one of those words that you can't trademark because it's...
Can you trademark Esky? Is Esky? That's trademarked.
Esky?
Esky.
Like the...
Esky's a brand, right?
Yeah, Esky is a brand originally. Yeah.
Chili bin.
The chili bin.
All right, so let's crack that pack.
Okay, crack it. Unstack it. And you haven't tried this?
I haven't tried these.
Now, firstly, they are biscuit size.
Yes.
They're not wagon wheel size. They're biscuit size.
Yeah, the same size as what would you say, like a mint slice?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, you go. You
know what I like also? I'm just going to make an observation around the consistency and even in presentation. Like these ones feel like they've been a bit melted. Those ones are quite
smooth,
flat and smooth. Like there's no real consistency in the box. All right, I'm going to lean away from the microphone. Okay. You can keep talking.
I've got to say about the packing. So they're leaning into the knockoff factor. So it's the same color scheme as wagon wheel: yellow, red, green. Interestingly, the photo of the biscuit that they have on the cover, they are suggesting that it's quite a lot of marshmallow, but then when you actually look at the biscuit, it doesn't seem to be like marshmallow dominant. It seems to be sort of an even spread of biscuit, marshmallow, and chocolate. All right, so Will has taken his bite. He's keep chewing off mic. There you go. It's deep in consideration. I don't know. I've never seen that look on his face. He's considering.
Before I give my opinion, I'd like a bit more of a second to consider what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'd like you to have a... Okay. So basically, what I want to work out, and the reason I'm taking this little period of time is, there's certainly an initial sensation that I got that I just wanted to see, like, how it felt after, like 5, 10, 15 seconds. Sometimes you can get an initial pleasure, but it can dissipate very quickly, or it can be too sweet. They are very sweet.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if I would be like, but they're pretty delicious. Like they've got a good consistency. The chocolate's nice. The biscuit is nice. The marshmallow, not as plentiful as it appears on the pack, but it is still there. Like you wouldn't want to eat like 2 of them, I don't think.
Which is maybe a good thing.
Yeah.
I have the opposite feel to you. I don't like it. I think it's a bit bland. It's sweet for sure, but it reminds me a bit of the Gaytime biscuit in that they feel like they've overcompensated with the sugar. And the biscuit I find is just it's not crunchy. It feels a bit stale. Doesn't have a right texture. There's no crunch to it.
I don't mind that biscuit.
The chocolate's okay, but
I don't mind that chocolate. I don't mind that biscuit for like a cheap biscuit feel, but the sugar's too much.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like,
I think
it's tasty. Like I go, oh, this is a nice taste, but then there's no sort of like follow through of going, that is satisfying.
You know what I think the issue is they have used milk chocolate, whereas the wagon wheel has dark chocolate, which just takes the sweetness down just a couple of degrees, which makes it more tolerable. And so this has almost the flavor of a chocolate royal.
Yeah, it tastes much more like a chocolate royal than it does like a wagon wheel.
Which if I'm going to get this flavor, I'll get a chocolate royal. So it's
Is this as good as a chocolate royal? No, I would suggest no, despite the fact that I haven't had a chocolate royal in a very long time.
Okay, so to use our millennial ranking system, which is
S tier,
and then A to F.
Yeah,
where you're ranking it?
I don't mind it. Like I would have it again. So, but I wouldn't have more than one. But if somebody was like, "Hey, I'm getting you a cup of coffee. Would you like a little cartwheel on the side?" I'd probably be like, "Yeah, with a coffee, I think I could enjoy a cartwheel." So that means to me it's got to be at least a D. I'm going to give it a D plus.
Oh shit! Okay. I mean, I don't like it as much as you, and I was going to give it a C minus. So that's interesting.
Well, a D plus and a C minus
about the same.
are about the same.
Yeah,
I would have
okay.
thought. So,
all right. I'm happy to stay with the C minus. Will's giving D plus. So I think it's a big thumbs down to the cartwheels. I found the email actually. That was from Luke.
But I'm happy to eat the whole. I mean, it's not very big, but
I'm in no rush to go back to that. Okay. Well, we got one more week of. I've got an Aldi next week. We have an Aldi treat, which is not a knockoff. It's specific to
Aldi original.
Aldi original or Belmont original, I should say.
Okay.
And my friend Diana, she recommended this to me a couple of days ago, and she said her husband raves about this.
Okay.
So I'm quite excited to bit of sizzle for next week's episode.
Or not, depending on whether you love or hate this segment.
Let's get to the mailbag. This is Billy, who you might remember from our live show, the last live TOFOP, when we got Billy up on stage.
Billy was very funny, by the way.
He said, it's Billy, the one-time temporary guest Charlie from the August live show, just writing to say thanks, as always, for all the stuff you do, but an extra thank you both for having me up with Will. Spur of the moment, I know, but that was one of the most fun things I've ever done. Well, you know what? Good on you, because I don't think in your position I would have done it. Like, I know that I'm a performer in a sense, but that would scare me shitless to get up on stage like spur of the moment. Like, I mean,
particularly knowing that
the
show is very loose; it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. But I thought Billy was very fun and very funny.
You had no obligation to give into my cheeky heckle interaction, but I'm so glad you did. Billy was there yesterday, by the way. I think at 2 Guys 1 Cup. But I'm so glad you did. I hope I didn't turn off anyone. And I promise that I don't actually hate your acting. It's fine if you do.
No, we all just having fun.
We all
got it.
It's all jokes. Being up on stage next to someone I'm such a big fan of will be a story I will tell forever. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. I've listened to your shows for a long time, back when I was probably a bit too young for them. So it was a wild experience. I mean, that would be wild. Like, it'd be like Billy Connolly pulling you up on stage when you went to that gig that inspired you.
Why is Billy Connolly playing this 150-seater? What happened to Billy Connolly's career?
Plus, you got me buying a T-shirt afterwards, so $40 for 30 minutes isn't bad. Fuck,
not
that's
bad.
Actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, we'll get
Maybe
someone
sell
up
that
per episode.
Yeah, but they have to pay for it, right?
Yeah, all right. You have to buy a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's like it's what they do at cons, right? Like, it's like, hey, yeah, you can. I'm not just going to give away an autograph. You can pay for an autograph.
I mean, it'd be great at my improvised shows if next year I'm doing like I'm doing a tour, but you're just like, if you want to be involved, buy a T-shirt. Like, I'm not saying I would only talk to people who'd bought a T-shirt, but that could be a good signal that you really want to be talked to. Buy a T-shirt, and then I can spot you in the crowd.
I'm inspired enough that I might even finish off the stand-up set I've been attempting to write for 2 years.
Oh, nice one, Billy. You absolutely do that.
Imagine if Billy goes on to be like the biggest comedian in the world. And we had some small part in that. Can we then hit him up?
Also the Billy line? Like, from Billy Connolly, who inspired me, to my Billy,
it's
to the next to the Billy, right?
Yeah,
that would be, okay, so no pressure, Billy, but get that shit
Stop
together.
smoking Billies and write that stand-up set, Billy. You guys are legends. I can't thank you enough for brightening my commute every week. Here's to plenty more live shows and bulk recorded. Crack that, packs to come. Woohoo!
Okay, great, good.
And yes, we are definitely doing more live shows. Announcements to come. We just have to lock in a few details.
Yeah, but soon.
Definitely happening. Yeah. Just clear some space to the end of the year because there's going to be more live TOFOPs. This is from Jane. This is a biscuit recommend. I volunteer for a charity called Worthy Cause that bakes and sells cookies to support an employment program for people experiencing disadvantage. Would you be interested in sampling them? If so, where should I send them? That's a good question. I mean, I think we would.
Yeah.
Let me work out the logistics of that because it sort of just depends on. Have to get them sent here.
Have to get them sent somewhere at the kind of right time frame.
Yeah, but I imagine they're.
Yeah, I assume if they're for charity,
there's long term.
We'll have to find these details out.
Yeah.
But in theory, let's give the charity a plug again. What are they called?
Worthy Cause.
Yeah. So let's.
But what if we trash their biscuits? We can't. Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, can we be honest?
Yeah, that's one of the questions we're going to have to ask. Maybe for something like Worthy Cause, you could sample, like say they have 3 different varieties.
And I say which one's my favorite,
and you could just rank them. rather than saying like one's bad or good or whatever. You could just say like if we were giving out gold, silver, and bronze.
Yeah.
But maybe they're also awesome biscuits.
Yeah, they could be.
Yeah.
One more Crack That Pack recommend. This came in from someone calling themselves Jats Crackor.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Spelt like Phil Cracker. Will and Charlie, firstly, thanks for the many, many years of laughs. I'm writing to make a biscuit nomination as the GOAT, Aldi's Supremo cookies.
Okay.
Maybe a close second to my special homemade Anzacs. Well, unfortunately, we don't have the Supremos coming in, but maybe
At some stage, we can do a Supremo.
in a later episode,
Yeah.
we can get to a Supremo. All right. Mike, are you there? How long have we done? I feel like this is about just under an hour or close to an hour.
What time is it now?
Yeah, you're good. That's an hour.
Okay, great. All right. All right, that is TOFOP for this week. We don't really have, you don't have anything coming up, do you?
Adam Spencer and I are on
that's
tour.
right.
We're doing...
That's exciting.
Yeah, Adam and Will, the first time in a long time. So, yeah, people can go to comedy.com.au. Look, we're only doing a very small run of shows. And I will say to anyone who's listening in, particularly Hobart, Perth, Canberra, who have all been like, hey, why aren't you coming to us? The real reason is we only had a very small period of time that both Adam and I could do this because it was just like it wasn't meant to be in either of our schedules. It grew out of just that we were going to have a dinner together and maybe invite some old guests, you know, and kind of have a little thing for ourselves that's now grown into us doing a bunch of shows. So we just couldn't find venues and work it into the schedule. So there is Melbourne, which is one show is sold out. We are adding a second show at the Comedy Theatre, but that is it. There will be no other shows. So, like, if you want to come, you got to get tickets to that. There are shows in Sydney. One of them's already sold out. There is only, I think, one other that is going to be on sale. Brisbane, I think both shows have almost sold out already. We are trying to find a third date in Brisbane because there's been so much demand, but I don't know if we'll be able to. Newcastle, Wollongong. Yeah, come along. Basically, what's going to happen is that Adam and I will each night, so that every show is going to be different, but we'll do sort of like, hey, we'll talk about, hey, an interesting thing that happened with a band or an interesting, like, weird guest we had or whatever it is, and we'll do a different example on different nights. And each night we'll try and get someone who used to be connected with the show, whether they be an old guest or a regular or a producer or a caller or a musician or whatever it might be. But in each city for each show, we'll have a different person to come along and be part of the where are they now sort of aspect of the show. But it's all, the whole idea is that we're literally just taking people back to that period of time, go back, remember the music, remember the times, have a bit of a laugh and a fun time. So I think it'll be really good.
Okay, there'll be a link in the episode description for that. And best way to support the show is still Patreon. Thank you to everyone who signed up in the last month. I've got a bunch of people here. Jason Alderton, Joel Tuccia. I've got someone who calls themselves Mr. Zucchini.
Oh, Mr. Zucchini's on board?
We finally got Mr. Zucchini.
Okay, good.
That's so amazing. Tristan M., thank you so much for your donation. Isabella Bird. It's really amazing. Like, the numbers are going up on Patreon.
Thank you, because at the moment, that's
all we got.
Yeah, we're doing these live shows, we're doing the Patrons, and that is pretty much how we're supporting this entire business at the moment.
Yep.
Barely supporting this entire business at the moment.
Paul Manuel, Melissa Halstead, these are all people who have signed up in the last
As you can tell from
weeks.
Charlie's stories today, he's not got any extra money to be spending on employing somebody to do very basic things around the house.
Simon King and Meet Antrim 001. Thank you all for signing up to our Patreon. We'll be back next week and we're going to crack some more packs. I'm Charlie Clausen.
Oh, well, Anderson.